We're actually seeing just dedicated creators, media brands, content series that exclusively evolve and are by their nature just short form content series. So I think it's really awesome to see that the economics are starting to better reward ingenuity and innovation on formats that play to that medium.
The wider trend is making more money off of short form content, which I think creators should be obviously really happy about.
All right, Jordan, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. For anybody looking at the video, I see that beautiful plaque behind you. You want to tell the people what it is, what it do?
I'm unavailable. No, this is one of a very long-standing Knox client, David O, Nigerian Afrobeat global superstar. I've had the opportunity to be working with him for over the past, almost 2 years at this point. He actually just released another album less than a month ago. And this is, you may have heard the song Unavailable, but went gold. Super grateful that our team and agency here at Knox was able to be a part of that. And then, had to reframe the camera.
Exactly.
Sure we got the backdrop, little set design.
Exactly.
So excited to roll out the new studio look. But it's been good, man. How you been?
Things are good. Things are good. I got some news today that I'll be able to move towards closing on my apartment. There's been some drama. My realtor has said, he said in the beginning of the process, there will be something that screws this all up, but we will get through it. And we ran into it. I will leave that for off of the podcast, but today we got through it. So I'm happy.
Yeah, man. No, amazing. I'm happy for that as well. It'll be fun. Might have to start doing some more in-person recordings together, as we'll just be won't be too far from each other out here in Brooklyn.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, let's dive in. Definitely got some fun news bits over the course of the past week to cover, ranging from some really shocking stats around revenue across YouTube Shorts relative to longer form videos, new platforms, blockbuster podcast network acquisitions, and more. So without any further ado, we'll jump into it, starting with the fact that YouTube CEO Neil Mohan announced within the past week that YouTube Shorts has achieved the same revenue per watch hour when compared to revenue generated by long-form YouTube videos. This is due to increased ad impressions, AI-driven ad placements, as well as just a general 20% year-over-year increase when comparing Q1 YouTube Shorts watch time relative to Q1 2024 watch time. I think this is really interesting, especially given the fact that YouTube has long been a go-to platform for creators, knowing that they'll be able to monetize audience on their platform. There's been some hesitation around the true value of a view on a YouTube short. Yes, it's easier to go viral, but historically it's been a lot more challenging for creators to generate the same level of meaningful income from advertisers across YouTube Shorts. So I think these are really promising statistics, not only around the increase in consumption of YouTube Shorts, but even just the fact that per hour watched, YouTube Shorts are now generating the same amount of revenue when compared to that of regular long form videos. I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think this means for the broader creator landscape? Do you think more and more creators are going to be prioritizing shorts versus long form YouTube? Or do you think it's still arguably more important to focus on that long form retention on a platform like YouTube?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, first of all, I've said this before, but in order for success like this, a few things have to go right. One of them is when Shorts was released, how many people are actually going to adopt Shorts and actually put content on Shorts? So it seems like a good amount of them, 70% of all YouTube channels are uploading Shorts. Well, after that, in order to get an increase in advertising revenue, people actually have to be watching those shorts. I know you and I have been prioritizing shorts for as long as we've been in the game, for many, many years, and our different content formats. I've always suggested to people that they upload to YouTube Shorts, but who knew what that viewership was going to be like? Viewership has gone over 20%. And in order for that to happen year over year, and in order for that to happen, and this is a really, really big final thing, last but not least, you actually have to have places for people to see and discover shorts. So if you go to YouTube's webpage right now, you'll see obviously the same thing that you normally see, which are the videos that are recommended for you. But then within that feed, there are shorts. So it's sort of a masterclass in people who are adopting this TikTok approach to building clips. What do we do to actually make it worth it for creators? Well, first, we have to increase adoption. Second, we have to increase viewership. And third, we have to have surfaces where these can actually live, where that viewership can grow over time. Now, to answer your actual question, which was where should people be prioritizing their focus? I think they should be prioritizing long form and cutting it up into short form. I think it's very easy, and we've talked about it on this podcast several times, to burn out as a creator, to create too much content, to feel like you need to be everywhere at once. So you need to have your content doing some of that legwork for you. So yes, still upload your YouTube videos, still do your streams, but you should be cutting up as much of that content as you can and making it shorts, making it TikToks, making it Instagrams. So that way you don't feel as burnt out when new short form content formats are released, when new long form content formats are released. I think repurposing it is the name of the game. I know you and I have talked about content pillars and what that look like and repurposing. And then I talk about shoulder content a lot as well, which I call the content that comes from the main content, the head content. I think Shorts is just a great example of a company actually prioritizing that content in order to get advertisements. And I think it's good for of course, it's good for YouTube, but I do think it's good for the creators, depending on how they actually create that content. Obviously, long form into short form is the easiest way to do it. And I think that's how people should be approaching it moving forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great to see I think it's been tough for creators to earn meaningful income across platforms outside of YouTube, unless they're doing like off-platform brand partnerships and integrating that into their audiences. I know historically, even if you're getting tens of millions of views across your videos, you're just not generating that much when it's a
Right.
kind of short form video view. So I think just the fact thematically that revenue per hour watched or revenue per minute is increasing. I think that's really promising. I think a lot of consumers are spending more and more time consuming short form content. So to create better economic models for creators that are driving a lot of that attention and consumption is a big win. I still do think though it's short form video is like a solid top of funnel play from a creator or media company perspective, but it's also still very hard to develop a deeper, more meaningful connection with your audience in this short form format. Whereas long form, you're able to create a deeper connection, more brand loyalty. So I do think, although it is valuable and it is creating a more equitable model for creator compensation, it still should really just be this top of funnel play, because I do think
Mm-hmm.
that a million, I'd rather have 10,000 or 100,000 like sticky views that are watching a video for 30 to 60 minutes versus like a million views that are watching a video for 2 seconds or more before it's logged as an actual view. So I think it's
Well
important
said.
creators are thinking about that stickiness versus just running up the view slot machine.
Right. But making money off a top of funnel play, it's pretty good. That's a pretty good part to be in the business model. If it's just supposed to be top of funnel to get people at the bottom of the funnel, but you can actually make money at each part of that funnel, that only spells
Yeah.
good things for creators.
Yeah. I also think it's really interesting too, because there's full on media brands that are incubating and operating around short form social video content series.
Yeah.
Like that used to, even as you were saying, used to be almost exclusively like shoulder content or headlines or memes or clips from longer pieces. But now we're actually seeing just dedicated creators, media brands, content series that exclusively evolve and are by their nature just short form content series. So I think it's really awesome to see that the economics are starting to better reward ingenuity and innovation on formats that play to that medium. So excited to see it continue. This, I'm sure, is just a trend that's on the upswing. Excited to see this continue to grow.
Yeah,
Bullish.
the wider trend is making more money off of short form content, which I think creators should be obviously really happy about. Um,
Yeah.
Great. Next thing, winning producer and songwriter Jason Pooh Bear Boyd. If any of you have heard Lupe Fiasco, he's on a lot of Lupe Fiasco tracks, and when I hear it, Jason Pooh Bear Boyd in my head, I think of Lupe Fiasco saying Pooh Bear, yelling it. But anyway, enough with the cringy humor. Renowned for shaping hits with Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran, has unveiled Ticker, a creator first video platform challenging the ad driven algorithmic status quo of social media. Officially launched in May 2025 this year, Ticker empowers creators to set their own prices, typically from 0.29 pounds to $1.99 for each video view, bypassing ads, subscriptions, and middlemen. The platform's mission: give creators real income and control with robust content protection and direct fan support. With built-in encryption, anti-piracy safeguards, and upcoming features like analytics and fan messaging, Ticker aims to be a digital gallery where every video is intentional, valuable, and owned by its creators. How do you think, first question, Sam, this play incorporates itself into the wider social media landscape? What could Ticker be for people that they aren't currently getting from other social media platforms and services?
Yeah, for starters, just to make sure I even grasp this as we set it up for our audience. So
Yeah, let's do
it's
it.
built around the fact that like consumers are paying to watch somebody's content at a cost per view
Yes.
set by the creator.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like that's noble cause, but I'm genuinely very curious to see how consumers react to that. I think it's the cat may already be out of the bag. I do think there's a lot of merit to um, creators or consumers having to pay for the content they see directly to the creators versus creators relying off advertisers trying to reach their audience. But I also think it's a long stretch, given that we're in this world where everybody's been so inundated by free content and the fact that content is so freely accessible and that monetization needs to happen in other ways, whereas content is really just a mechanism to grow attention, makes me a bit worrisome that consumers are not going to be spending 29 cents to watch a piece of content. Um, so I'm a little bit bearish in that regard. I do think there are significant opportunities to shake things up and create better economics that don't rely on creators just being middlemen for
Right.
advertisers to reach their audience. With that said, I'm not sure that just the like cost per view of content being paid directly by the consumer will be the model. I mean, it's interesting though, from like a music, if you equate it to more of like a music streaming perspective, which has its pros and its cons. And I think there's even platforms like Deezer that have actually tried to like innovate, ensuring that if you are paying $10 a month for music subscription, that if you listen, if 50% of your listens go to one artist, 50% of your monthly subscription goes to that artist. Unfortunately, the reality across other platforms outside of Deezer are a bit more convoluted than that. And it really isn't that simple. So I would say if there's kind of a subscription and the percentage of views that go towards a certain creator dictate what percentage of your monthly subscription gets divvied up to those creators, that makes more sense to me than a base level. Like this is cost per view. You watch my video and now you have to pay this much to watch my video. It's interesting. If anything, consumers are paying with their attention and paying with
Yeah.
their time. Like that's valuable. So
Mm.
I mean, I like the fact that it's innovating when it comes to trying to disband pure middleman models of creators monetizing off advertisers. Not sure if it's the full solution having consumers pay per view, but excited to see how it lands and excited to see people keep experimenting.
Yeah, Pooh Bear obviously is a very famous producer and famous creator, but I wouldn't put him at the likes of the people that he's collaborated with, Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran. And those are the type of people that I think will actually benefit from this the most. I think in order to, I wouldn't necessarily join this service to become famous or to be discovered. It's strictly a money play, strictly a monetizing play. And yes, if I'm a huge Justin Bieber fan and I have to pay 20 cents, 29 cents to watch a video and I'm a super fan, I'm probably going to do that. So I feel like that's what will be the beginning of this service is people coming to it that are already extremely, extremely famous. It sort of reminds me of Vault FM,
Yeah.
Which James Blake uses a good amount. It's a super fan platform and he releases music through there. He has a mailing list through there. There's chat rooms in there, that sort of thing. And obviously, the numbers are huge in terms of how much you can actually monetize. I think there's a 98% open rate for whatever is sent through that application. It's become definitely a super fan application. So I think this is sort of in the same realm as that. It's not let's get the most people on here as possible. It's let's get the super fans here and let's monetize those super fans efficiently. I'm wondering how Discovery is going to be involved in this at all. If there will be Discovery or if it just be a landing page for creators where you have to pay per view. But clearly, they're clearly trying to not just cut out the middleman, but specifically cut out advertisements. They're saying we don't want any advertisements. We don't want any middlemen. We want you to get paid directly for everything. I'm not actually sure if the market is ready for that type of monetization yet. I mean, when I look at a YouTube video, I don't necessarily think that I'm paying the creator when I look at an ad. It's just a normal part of the experience of looking at a YouTube video. I think it's almost too on the nose to say pay 29 cents, even though that's what they may be getting paid by you looking at that advertisement, you know. So yes, definitely a good try at this model. The other part that we haven't really spoken about is the encryption. Do we think piracy is enough to say, hey, I'm going to go onto the service or platform to avoid to be able to avoid the amount of piracy that's available right now. In a sharing economy, I actually don't know how valuable that is, but I'm interested to get your thought on it.
The piracy, yeah, I think, I mean, it really boils down to who you're trying to serve. I mean, a lot of times people are reposting your content. I mean, I think that's not a bad thing. Like, if
Right.
anything, that's should be like incentivized. And you're seeing stuff like WOP having their content incentives program where people can be paid automatically based on how many views or impressions they drive when
Right.
repurposing and reposting your content. So
Right.
more often than not, smart marketers are actually leaning into ways to incentivize people to leverage and syndicate and repost their content. So I think when it comes to any level of like trying to make sure that people's original content is kept and not be able to be shared. I mean, I guess if there's some level of like true exclusivity by way of trying to create this like super fan platform that
Right.
isn't necessarily as much catered towards building broader distribution and awareness, but is more so focused around really trying to nurture and create unique levels of access to super fans,
Right.
then I think having some level of encryption and guaranteed privacy is helpful. So I think it really just boils down to the purpose. I think you brought up some good points around there's not there's different platforms that enable you to engage and reach fans at different stages of your funnel. Some are these
Yep.
kind of broader top of funnel plays. You want people to share that. You want people to stitch, duet, react, repost. As you start getting into that more exclusive content, which it seems like this is a place where this platform wants to play, then I think there's a stronger case to be made around the importance of things like encryption, around privacy, around ensuring that it's not kind of leaving that platform.
Yeah. I'm just not sure if piracy is the big problem to be solved right now in the creator economy. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah. All right, let's hop
yeah,
to the next one.
for sure. Um, so over the course of earlier this month, rather, PodX, a Swedish podcast company, acquired a majority stake in U.S. podcast network Lemonada for $30 million, marking PodX entry into the U.S. market. Lemonada's show is known for shows like Wiser Than Me and a largely female audience, which has seen rapid growth. This deal really provides PodX with celebrity-led content and expands Lemonada's global reach, reflecting podcast's consolidation trend. Lemonada's management and independent operation will continue. A couple stats to know here. Lemonada has a slate of over 50 plus original podcasts, plus 40 partner shows, multiple number one podcasts, multiple number one chart topping podcasts on Apple Podcasts. 79% of their audience identifies as female. Some of the big shows include shows with folks like Meghan Markle. Similarly, this is on the heels of some reports by companies like Owl & Co. that have estimated the global podcast market to be sized at about $7.3 billion. iHeartMedia, similarly, has reported 28% year-over-year growth. So I think moral of the story, we're seeing continued consolidation and major liquidity events in the space in concert with continued growth of the sector as a whole. With that said, I'm curious, from your perspective, given that Lemonada's kind of show was their slate, their roster of shows is very much built around helping celebrities and big talent incubate different podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that talent-led or celebrity-driven IP is the next big wave in podcast M&A? Or do you think the bigger play is still around trying to incubate different shows and series from scratch?
Oh, damn, that's a really good question. Well, first of all, I listen to Wiser Than Me all the time. I am not, I'm not a woman. It's funny reading that. Huge fan of Wiser Than Me. I actually think you have to have a diversified portfolio of podcasts. I think Lemonade is doing really well in a certain niche. That's completely okay. I do think people will hit a ceiling though eventually. Like obviously podcasts from Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Meghan Markle are going to move the needle somewhat, which is why we've seen this huge acquisition. I don't think necessarily though it'll be the only place for. I don't think necessarily though it should be the only place to get these type of podcasts, and they should be focusing only on these type of podcasts. I think it's a model that hasn't entirely been proven yet. It's just been right so far. Like when Lemonada has some really big competitors in the market with a similar demographic, and they make similar moves, I think that's probably when I will start to see podcasts as the next big thing. I mean, Smartless, one of the biggest podcasts in the world right now, obviously is driven, but it's also like a really, really good podcast. Like Wiser Than Me is also a really, really good podcast. So it's not like it can only be celebrity driven in order to become famous, or it can only be celebrity driven in order to the attention of advertisers. Like it also has to be a good show.
Yeah.
When I think about celebrities, I don't think about just fandom. I think about the marketing that they can provide. And let's say I have 5 million followers on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and I make a podcast. It still has to be in order for people to watch that long form piece of content, for people to engage in that long form piece of content. So I do think talent driven IP has been a wave, but I think the reason why Lemonada is so successful here is they have good shows. Like we've seen a lot of celebrity driven podcasts. They generally have shows that are striking a chord with their audience. You can't really beat that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of celebrities that are being minted by way of podcasts and digital content series. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think there's often a lot of times too where celebrities will launch shows and they flop. So I don't necessarily think that just because talent comes with baked in audience, although that does give a bit of an upfront advantage by way of having a primed audience to reach when launching a show from scratch. I think there's still, in those instances, you often end up having to make some level of concessions around ownership splits on different podcasts that are being incubated because talent's coming to the table with a bit more leverage. So from a podcast network's perspective, that can potentially, its pros and its cons. I think similarly, I think there's just big opportunity. I think I'm excited to see as podcast networks build up a base of promotion, they can cross promote shows within their network and then are less reliant on the promotional power of any one celebrity because they can effectively get that same level of promotional power through way of cross promotion within the broader network. So I think over time, although maybe it's a faster path to immediate growth, it doesn't need to be the sustained growth strategy. So I think there's cases to be made on both sides. I think there's just as much opportunity for emerging talent in the space as there is for trying to come up with and co-create IP with seasoned and well-established talent.
Yeah. I mean, I think we discussed this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but is the largest place for people to ingest podcasts now. And YouTube will also surpass Disney in media revenue in 2025. I don't think that is a coincidence. I don't think the fact that podcasts are growing on YouTube and that it will also surpass Disney in media revenue is a coincidence. So now's the time to be experimenting with deals like this.
Yeah, and I think it's part of it too is the fact that it is. I mean, that's just to perfectly summarizes the fact that like democratization of media and not being reliant on superstars or major Hollywood studios is where attention is going within the broader media landscape. So I think coming back to that point of like celebrity backed IP or celebrity backed podcasts versus kind of emerging talent is just further substantiating the point that like you don't need a celebrity in order to build attention in today's creator driven economy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, thank you for your time, man. This was a great one.
Yeah, no, of course. As always, appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Some more stories, some more breakdowns. You know where to find us. Catch us on the gram. Until then, we out.